This video will show you how I use my master recipe dough to make beautiful pillowy sourdough focaccia. I've got two different doughs that I've used. I've used my standard master recipe process to make the dough, which you will find on my website and in my book. Just used my standard dough, and then I'll show you in this video how I converted to make focaccia. How good does that look? I can tell you, it smells amazing. These are my two doughs for my focaccia. I'm making two slightly different ones, and you can see, because of the different flours in them, actually the different growths in the dough. So I've used my standard master recipe. This one has got 500 grams strong white bread flour, absolutely standard. I've made the dough last night, pulled it together, left it to prove overnight. This is now my happily proved dough. This one, exactly the same, except it's got 150 grams of Coruscant flour and 350 grams of strong white bread flour. So you can see the difference in the growth, which is often the case when you've got a whole grain flour, because it's something that's denser. So I'm going to turn both of these doughs out into some pans ready to prove again. So we're going to start with the white one. So here's my pan, and one of the keys to focaccia is lots of wonderful olive oil. Lots and lots of olive oil adds the flavour, but also you get lovely crunchy base. I'm going to use my bowl scraper and just scrape the dough into the lovely oil-filled pan. Look at that beautiful dough. There we go. So, don't want to waste any. And all I'm going to do now is just flop it about in the olive oil. I'm going to cover it again and leave it to prove again, just so that it starts to get some of that life back. You could use it from this, you could dimple it out and you could bake it now, but I'm going to leave it just to prove again, just to get some of its life back from having handled it. And I'm going to do that by covering it. You could either cover it with another pan which is the same size, or you can do it with a big bag over the top and just leave it for 1 to 2 hours. So let's go on to the next one. Here we go. So we've got the same again. Excuse me. Lots and lots of lovely olive oil. Can you ever have too much? So here's our whole grain dough. Look. Beautiful. Beautiful dough. You can really see the difference in the texture between the two doughs. And again, just going to flip that over. Got lots of oil on it. I will cover it up, leave it for a little while, and then bake them later. So you see, I'll show you them again before I bake them. So for now, there's my doughs. My Coruscant and white, and my straight white. Here is my plain white dough, having been sitting and proving again for an hour and a half. And you'll see it's just spread a little bit. So what I want to do now is dimple it and get it ready to go into the oven. So I'm going to bake this as a plain one. I'll put a bit of oil on my fingers. You could very easily add some extras to this now if you wanted to. I like adding extras into the dough right from the beginning rather than at this point, but you could easily place garlic cloves, sprigs of rosemary, cheese, whatever you fancy on it. So really give it a good push, and don't worry about pushing into it really heavily, because if your dough is strong enough, it's going to bounce back up anyway. Spread some of that oil around the place, and that is going to go into the oven. You can start with a cold bake, or you can start with it preheated at 200 degrees fan or convection. There's full details about this in my book and on my website. So this is going to be my first one going into the oven. My happy full-on focaccia. Here is my other dough. So this is my dough which has got a portion of Coruscant flour. Again, I'm just going to leave this on plain. We like them like that, but also it gives you the opportunity to do other things with them if you want to. I'm going to dimple this one out again, and I'm going to put this one into a cold oven. So you can bake from cold for 25 minutes to 25 to 30 minutes, or you can bake from warm for 20 to 25 minutes. Let's just do the same again. The doughs feel really quite different because this one has got the portion of Coruscant flour in it. So it's firmer. Oh, it's lovely. This is such a great way to use dough, and if you fear that your dough is overproving or has overproved, or you've got a dough that you just can't manage, you fear that you can't turn it into a freeform loaf, or it's overproved, it's gone beyond being able to do much with it, then why not turn it into focaccia? Works perfectly. Just scoop the dough into your pan, let it prove again, and bake. Right, in it goes. Here we go. Fresh from the oven, olive oil still bubbling away. One happy, fresh focaccia. I'm going to leave it just briefly to make it easier to ease off the pan. Remember, whatever you put it on, that this is going to be oily underneath. But it's the oil that makes it so good. You can see the dimples and the work of the sourdough in there. Lovely. Smells amazing. Is number 2. Can you hear it? Look at that. Slightly darker in colour because of the Coruscant flour. Listen to that oil bubble. So again, I'm going to leave it for a little while so that I can then take it cleanly off the pan, and then serve some with my dinner. So a great thing with focaccia, something that I do a lot, is I cut it into squares once it's fully cooled and freeze it in big bags, and then you can take pieces directly from the freezer, place them in a pan, into the oven, heat them and defrost them, and they're ready to eat in 10-15 minutes. So it's really useful to have them in the freezer, especially when you live with a sourdough eating machine like I do. So 2 lovely food board master recipe focaccia. I'll cut it up in a little while and show you a bit more. So here they are, turned out of their pans, cooling on their racks. And I'm just going to pause this and turn them over so you can see the underside. This is the underside of the focaccia. Look at that. That is what the oil does. So this is beautiful, crunchy crust. Look at that. That is what the oil is about. And look at all the holiness. Our joyful sourdough in focaccia form. And this is the view inside. This is the white dough. I haven't cut the other one yet because it's still cooling. there you go. How's that? Sourdough focaccia in all its glory. Here's a corner of the focaccia made with the Coruscant flour. This is always going to be a slightly denser version, but what you'll find is a really nice biscuity kind of flavour and crunch. Really, really tasty. So I hope you have enjoyed seeing how I make focaccia.